What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a comparison of the FansToys Dunerunner with the X-Transbots Arkose, both versions of a G1 Beachcomber. These are separated by a few years, so the Arkose came out in 2015 or thereabouts, and the FansToys just came out in 2020. So we have had some technology, changes by then. But we're still going to do this comparison. As I always say with these comparisons, this is my opinion. I am trying to help people make a decision on which way to go, which one they want to purchase. But again, we're going to base these categories as objectively as we can. But of course, there's subjectivity involved when you're judging things like this. So that being said, let's get into it. And we'll start off with accessories. Here are the accessories you get with these two figures, and quite a bit for these smaller guys. But they both come with a gun, definitely different style guns. This one looks like more like a machine gun when it goes to the vehicle mode. This one is just more like a handgun, and it does fit in the vehicle mode. But either way, they both have a gun. They both have an alternate face. Actually, FansToys has three, but since this one has the masked face and this one has the, goggles there with the effect, we'll call those kind of even. And then here's kind of what you're left with. So FansToys, you do get these alternate look for the hood, which these pieces actually fit and stay on in the robot mode, whereas this one doesn't. So I'm just gonna kind of discount this or count this as one accessory between these pieces, right? Because you can change the look. And then for the X-Transbots, you've got the golden hand from the Golden Lagoon episode, which is cool. And then you get these birds, and the birds kind of mount on his shoulders. Now, for me personally, I don't really care about these birds. They're kind of useless to me. I'm never going to use them. They're going to sit in a box. But some people might say that about these faces, that, hey, I don't need this many faces. One or two faces is enough. Maybe just give me the one smiling face and give me the, this face, and that's it. But so I'm going to call it a tie on accessories. I'll just say, me personally, I prefer the accessories you got with the FansToys because they're things that I will use. But we'll call it a tie. Next, we'll talk about the Sculpt. And to do that, we're going to put the G1 cartoon there so you can take a look. And when it comes to Sculpt, this is, again, one of those very subjective things. And FansToys, especially recently, has been really trying to get their robots to look a lot more like the cartoon. And sometimes people say, it's gone too far. It's too toon. Now, this might be the case for some people, that this might have gone too toon. But when I look at the X-Transbots, I see a lot of things on there that aren't represented in the cartoon and are really just, engineering issues or engineering, lack of being able to engineer it away. So things like these panels here, the lights here, this entire back pocket, which we'll talk about a little bit later when we get to engineering. Things like that, I think people who like that more realistic look, back when Masterpiece was doing more realistic type vehicles and they were doing that kind of look, I think this fit in better. But now with the direction we're headed with Masterpiece, and trying to hit that G1 cartoon a lot closer, I think the FansToys is going to scratch that itch a little bit better. So here they are with some other mini bots. You've got the DX9 Richtofen and the X-Transbots Toro. And I didn't want to bring in another FansToys because they clearly are going to scale well together. Their brawn fits in perfectly with this figure. So with the cartoon look considered and also the overall size and look, I'm going to give Sculpt to FansToys. However, I can totally understand people who really like that original vehicle look, that more realistic look, why they would prefer this Sculpt. But for me, this is the one. This is the better Sculpt. Next, we'll talk about the paint on these figures. So they're both painted quite a bit. So the FansToys is actually painted from head to toe. Everywhere you see all the white surfaces and blue surfaces are painted, other than the wheels, obviously. And then internally, there's paint on those parts too. And for the X-Transbots, similar but not quite the same. So all the arm, all the blue you see, including the head, is painted. This chest and the gray pieces here are painted, and then all the legs. And it's not just regular paint; it's got that metallic, shiny blue paint. And then on the internals, there's a lot of paint there as well. So both painted pretty well. I would say the FansToys actually has more paint, But when it comes to looking at it on a shelf and what pops more, I have to say that the X-Transbots, because they use this metallic blue, it stands out a little bit more, a little bit better, and it tends to, you know, catch your eye on the shelf because of its color. And it does fit in with some of the other bots that have come out with metallic paint or with shiny paint versus this matte paint they used here. So I'm going to give paint to X-Transbots. We're going to talk about the build on these two figures. And now, neither of these have ratchets anywhere. They both don't have ratchets, and they are mini bots, so maybe you wouldn't expect them to have ratchets, but the FansToys is pretty much tight everywhere. So everywhere you have to articulate, you've got pretty tight things. Nothing moves. It doesn't flop around. All of the internal stuff kind of stays in where it's supposed to be, and things feel really solid. And it's just a heavy figure just because of all the die cast as well, but it just feels really solid. So it doesn't have any more hardware, but it feels solid. When you pick up this guy, you know, things are floppy, the legs, and actually this causes a problem when you articulate. We'll talk about that a little later. But things are kind of floppy in the legs, and that's right out of the box. This was never transformed, you know, when I first got it. And pretty much immediately, this is how it is. Right? It's got. By the way, this was sent to me by Ultra Jazz or Brent. And again, he's been sending me figures for review. So thanks once again, Ultra Jazz, for sending this to me. But there are a lot of little issues here on this figure. A lot of these little backpack pieces just don't feel very well built. They feel kind of cheap, like I might break it. And then these legs, especially the knee joints, don't feel so great. The arm's okay, but as you articulate, you know, things like that happen. The shoulder. This reminds me of, what was that figure? Same thing happened. His shoulders would pop up when you rotated it. And, you know, that's just very irritating because you're trying to play with it and articulate it, and it does that. So, for me, very easy call here on build. We're going to give build to FansToys. The articulation on these two guys. So in order to do that, we're going to go through the articulation for both these figures. I'm going to start off with FansToys. The head is on a ball joint. Gets up to there, down to there. Kind of limited. It does rotate all the way around. You can get the side to side. You get the arms up to there. They rotate all the way around. You have a rotation at the bicep. A single jointed elbow, you get to 90 degrees. You get a rotation at the waist, although a little bit tight. It does rotate. It does loosen up over time. You also get an ab crunch here. A lot of people claim that's not an ab crunch, but I think it counts. It works when I use it. And you can lock it in if you want to. You can lock it in back there. Continuing downwards, you do have hip skirts here that rotate out of the way. Leg goes up to there, back to there, out to there. You have a double jointed knee, so if you bend the top knee first, you get a little bit more than 90 degrees, maybe like 110 degrees or so. You have rotation at the thigh, and then you have an ankle tilt and an ankle pivot. Okay, so there is the FansToys for the X-Transbots. You have the head on a rotating swivel, so it gets a little bit higher up, about the same down, and then rotates all the way around. You get shoulder rotation up to there. It does rotate all the way around, but it starts to come apart, so you kind of have to hold here, and you can rotate that if you need to. Again, you can rotate at the bicep, but that tends to pop this joint out. Double jointed elbow gets you very tight, but it gets you all the way up to there, so a little bit more articulation on that elbow. Continuing downwards, you have a rotation at the waist. No ab crunch here, so this one doesn't have any ab crunch. Even like a fake ab crunch, I don't see any way to articulate this. So no ab crunch on this one. You do have the legs that go up to there, back to there, and up to there, and rotation at the thigh. This does have a double jointed knee, but because of all the hardware in the way, you can only get up to there. It's hindered by this back panel here. That's basically all you can go. And then you have the feet are on, let's see, it's pretty tight, but you have a very limited amount of ankle tilt. In this direction, it just doesn't feel very good. Scared to move it. So it does articulate a little bit out, and you have a little bit of a toe tilt here. And then you have a heel spur back here, but it's not very stable with that heel spur, to be honest. You know, they tried to give it the articulation, but it just ends up kind of getting in its own way in a lot of ways. So we're going to give articulation to FansToys. When it comes to engineering and transformation, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I think that FansToys nailed the engineering, and this is why, you know, they were able to somehow hide everything away. Now, to be fair, the X-Transbots spent a lot of time putting detail into this engine. I don't know why they put so much engine there, but that's what's there. And because of that, you end up with this huge backpack, and it's pretty unsightly, and it doesn't want to stay together. It's actually just kind of not good looking. So, you know, that kind of really tells you the magic of the transformation. Same with the legs. The legs are kind of, you know, it's got a lot of junk on it. In the front, you got the lights and these little, I guess this is the bumper. So all of those things kind of detract from the transformation because you just got things hanging out. So the engineering wise, I'm going to give that to FansToys just because they were able to make it so clean. But then when it comes to transformation, FansToys again is very enjoyable. This is an easy figure to go back and forth. It's actually very fun. I do it a lot. This one is not fun at all. This whole backpack section is very irritating to deal with. Things don't necessarily stay, and so you end up fighting with it, especially, you know, when there's loose joints and stuff. You end up fighting with it, and that doesn't make for a fun transformation. So we're going to give transformation as well to FansToys. Here they are in their alt modes. We will put the G1 cartoon there so you can kind of take a look and compare. And you'll notice I put these plates on here for the FansToys because that definitely looks more like the cartoon. I haven't put the Autobot logo there, but this one doesn't have it either. So in this mode, you know, these are very different takes. So this is a much more realistic take on a dune buggy, where this is more like the cartoon, looks a lot more like the Beachcomber that we know from the cartoon. And again, while this vehicle looks really nice, and actually they're pretty similar in size. So they've got this pretty much the same length, almost the same height, and FansToys is a little bit wider in the front, but about the same width. So similar dimensions, but yet that FansToys magic to make him bigger in robot mode is really, you know, cool engineering and cool transformation. But when you look at the X-Transbots, you know, I just reconfirmed that this transformation is just a nightmare. There's all these little panels and pieces that have to flip and fold, and it doesn't quite fit. I mean, you can see the fitment here. You know, this is supposed to plug in, and nothing really, you know, sits well. The same is true for this cage up here. You know, things don't necessarily stay together. It just feels kind of cheap. The other thing that's kind of weird is it's got lights on the side here. Maybe that's what this dune buggy looks like, but FansToys has no lights, so at least it's got the lights. It's also got that more realistic like hubcap, whereas these just got the chrome wheels. So just to make this fair, I did include two FansToys figures and two X-Transbots figures, and it does feel a little bit small, a tiny bit on the small side. The wheels are a little bit small, and overall, it just feels a little small in both modes, robot mode and vehicle mode. So we're going to give alt mode to FansToys. I just think they have a more well-rounded and overall better looking figure, and it's much more fun to get here, and it stays together. It doesn't fall apart. On this guy is the cost. So FansToys, I think, is at around $100, 90 something, depending where you bought it. The X-Transbots is at $65, so no contest here on the cost. X-Transbots wins easily there. Final thoughts on these guys. You can see the score there, pretty much a blowout for FansToys, and you know, I'm not surprised. So back in the day, I did buy this figure. I bought it, I opened it, I messed with it a little bit, put it back in the box, and sold it. I didn't even transform it. It just felt trashy out of the box. I thought maybe I got a lemon, maybe I got a bad version or a bad copy. So this was sent to me again by Ultra Jazz. So figured maybe his is better. And it was just as bad, if not worse, than the one I got originally. So I don't know. For me, it's an easy, clear win. I know there's a lot of people who love this X-Transbots figure. And, he was great for the time, but I think he just didn't age well. And if they were to remake it, they could probably make a better figure. But for me, as it stands, the FansToys is an easy winner. There's really no contest or competition here. The only reason you might want to get the X-Transbots if you wanted it for vehicle mode, right? Because that vehicle mode does look pretty cool. And I will say it has a lot more details than the FansToys. All right, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.